Howdy YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So today we're going to be stripping down and refurbing a few of my ANI analog gauges. So I did it myself a couple of days ago, and I decided, I took a few photos, put it on Instagram, and as I was actually putting the Instagram post up, so I just thought, why not throw a quick video together? There was a couple of reasons behind it, and part of it was that I just gone and got myself a new GoPro 8. I know the 9s just came out, but they were out of stock and I needed a new GoPro. So I got the 8 and it's pretty cool so far. I'm just sort of tinkering with it, the settings, and finding the sweet spot in the booth and to get rid of the flickering. But all of that aside, I just thought, hey, why not throw a quick video together on stripping one of these ANI gauges down, and hopefully one or two of you guys out there can gain a bit of knowledge or at least be inspired to give one of your gauges a cleanup. So look, I'm a big fan of these gauges. They're really affordable. I think they're like around 30 Australian dollars. So that's like a quarter of the price of the SATA ones. Now don't get me wrong, the SATA ones are the best on the market. They, like, you can pretty much douse them in thinners every single time you use them and you'll never have an issue. But these ones here, you really don't want to get too much thinners on them. In saying that, most of these gauges here are at the very least 3 years old. And I do get daily use out of these gauges without a hiccup at all. Now, there was that one. So I've had one out of all the gauges I've had, these ANI gauges, I've had one go. That was the one that was sort of semi-stripped down that you might have seen before. I think what actually happened with that one was, I think I might have dropped it or something and smashed the glass. That's right. That's why the glass was gone. And then the little, the stopper, the part that stopped the needle from going back down below zero, that had actually popped off too. So I'll put that aside. There's always going to be a few spare parts there. You never know. They may come in handy one day. But apart from that, you can fully strip these down, which is handy because, as I was saying before, you really don't want to go and douse them in thinners every time you clean your gun out. So that is why over time, especially on these primer guns, over time, they do just get built up and built up with 2-pack primer and they get a bit dirty. So it's good that you can strip them right down, because the main thing is that as long as you take the gauge off, you can get them pretty wet with the thinners and you're not going to do too much damage. But you can end up, if you douse them in thinners on the gauge, the thinners will get inside and damage the numbers, so where the writing is and all the numbers are, it will smudge all of them. So as long as you take that gauge off, normal thinners will be okay. But as you're about to find out, there's actually a couple of seals. If you dig a little bit deeper and you take it apart a little bit further, there is actually a couple of rubber seals inside there. Now you probably noticed that took a little bit of force to take that glass piece off, but they do come off. So yeah, just careful when you're taking them apart that you don't do too much damage to the needle, because they're pretty sensitive. But another thing that can happen with these is the needle can get stuck to the stopper. So, and that happens when you've actually got a little bit of thinners inside there. So because it's plastic, it'll stick the needle to the stopper. So sometimes all you have to do is, well, give it a tap. Sometimes that's the easiest way around it. But sometimes what you also have to do is actually take that glass piece off and then just give it a touch, like literally just touch the needle. It'll unstick it from the stopper and off you go. So the stuff I'm using here is pretty amazing. It's called Cam Clean. It's basically liquid paint stripper. It is stinky stuff. It is really nasty stuff. Like, I'm sitting here on my computer editing this video, doing the voiceover. I think I can smell it through that video screen. That's how bad that stuff is. So do be extra careful if you can get your hands on this stuff to, yeah, wear all your PPE, so your gloves and your respirator. But that's another thing worth mentioning. When you do pull the gauge itself off, it's worth tightening up those screws because they can rattle loose over the years. Like, they can just slightly go loose. Another thing, yep, get your thread tape. So before you do go and take on a job like this, it is worth getting some thread tape. Now, they must put some Loctite in these from brand new, and that does make these gauges quite stiff to get off for the first time. And if you don't put this thread tape on, there's a good chance that it's not going to seal, then you're not going to get the accurate reading on your regulator. Be careful also to make sure that any of the excess Teflon tape isn't in the passageway. That's another thing that I don't want blowing through the air passages of my spray gun. So once I've got the Teflon tape on, I'm going to give the glass screen a bit of a clean. Now this is all at the time while the other parts are soaking in that cam clean, so I'm sort of utilizing the time that it takes for the cam clean to do its job in cleaning the rest of the parts up. Now that cam clean is amazing stuff. I've actually heard that you can't get it in the States. I've been doing this YouTube thing for like 5 or 6 years now, and when I first started this channel I did show you guys the cam clean, and I had some guys from the States saying, wow, I've never heard of that, we don't have that over here. And I do know that Cam is an Australian company, so look, I would be surprised if there's not an identical product on the market in most markets in the world, but it's just gonna be up to you to find it, I guess. So get inside the comment section if you do know of this product and you're in another country, just let everyone else know what it's called and where to get it. So it was around this time here when I was pulling the second one down while the other one was soaking. It was around this time that I found that there was actually 2 of these little rubber seals inside here. So once you actually unscrew the air adjustment, there is another black rubber seal. So as soon as I realized that, I knew that I was accidentally soaking in Cam Clean a rubber seal. So what I decided to do was get the seal out by taking it out, and then I ended up just putting it under we've got this little light. It's just a paint drying light that we put our color cards in. You've probably seen it in a color matching video if you're a regular to the channel. But yeah, basically what that did was heat it up, and that just evaporated the liquid out of it, and then it actually shrunk it back into shape so it fitted in. So all the thinners is going to soak into the rubber and make it expand, so it's definitely recommended to take those seals out. There was one little white seal, but that was like a hard plastic one, so I decided that's probably one of those ones that's worth leaving. I tried pulling it off and I thought, you know what, I could maybe even end up doing more damage, more harm than what it's worth. But yeah, look, it's one of those things that we live in such a throwaway world. A lot of people would be more inclined to go and get themselves a new gauge than actually spend, 20 minutes or whatever it takes to give their old gauge a bit of a refurb. So as I say, it's one of those things you really don't want to douse them in thinners daily, because if you do get too much on them, you'll ruin them. So don't over clean them. But if you don't over clean them, then every now and then you're probably going to have to do what I'm doing here. But hey, it's a $30 gauge, you're not spending $120 on your SATA gauge, which is admittedly the best quality gauge on the market. But for the price, I'll probably stick with 4 of these. I actually had this guy the other day saying, oh, why are you always picking on SATA? And he's like, why are you complaining about the price? You don't even pay for it. And I'm like, you're kind of missing the point of the review, dude. Like, I'm laying it all out on the table, trying to give you the best information to let you decide whether or not you think it's worth it. You might say, well, I don't care about the price. I want build quality above and beyond all else. Well, then you go for it, man. But at the end of the day, as long as I stay honest to myself, I know that I've got a clear conscience, and I know that most of my audience do appreciate the fact that I tell it how it is. I was actually recently offered money to do a review. I knocked it back out of integrity for the channel. I believe that receiving money to do a review would cloud your judgment. Even if you went into it with the best of intentions, I believe that it would cloud your judgment. Just quickly before we end the vid too, it's going to be until the end of November until those spray suits are back in stock. So a big apology about that, and also a big thanks to everyone who has been buying them and asking about them. But yes, we'll have them back in stock soon enough. I'd like to say a big thanks to everyone for watching, and if you'd like to support the channel further, you're more than welcome to go over and check out some of the merchandise we've got. My personal favorite is those spray suits. So they're a good quality Colad branded spray suit with the Gunman logo on it. There's also hats, drink coolers, hoodies, and t-shirts, so be sure to go over and check out the link in the description if you are interested. All that aside, I'd just like to say a big thanks for watching, and that is enough to support the channel. But as I say, if you'd like to go the next step, then be sure to check out some of that merchandise. Thanks for watching, and until next time, get out there and paint some shit. Gunman out.